We'd like to call the meeting of the Monday, July 23rd Strategic Planning Meeting to order. Roll call, Councilman Berenger and Councilman Lambert had called in and they couldn't make it tonight due to work. We have no two-thirds emergency items, and Ms. Fontenot, would you please care to lead us in a prayer?
I would be honored. Thank you. Father, as always, we come just bearing thanksgiving, Father, for this wonderful parish. We really don't thank you enough. It seems like we do more complaining and more asking than we do thanking. So tonight I'm just going to thank you for the people that serve this parish, for the volunteers, for the firemen, for the policemen, for the chamber, for all the people, Father God, who are involved in this parish to make this parish what it is supposed to be. I thank you also for every soldier that is abroad or at home that is fighting for our freedoms. Father, this is the month of July, and we always think of freedom because it is July. So we thank you for that freedom. And we also thank you tonight, Father, that you secure our gates and our borders by your glory. In Jesus' name we thank you and praise you. Amen.
Amen. Pledge
allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comment period. People will be allowed to make public comments as each agenda item comes up. Number 5, update on lighting districts. Ms. Gwen LeBlanc is going to present a little chronology. Just for a background, about 3 years ago, Ms. Gwen, we were attempting to look into the lighting districts and possible expansions of some of them. And our assessor, Ms. Michelle, had found a number of discrepancies with people being in and out of the lighting districts, and the maps not coinciding with what energy was taking in and charging and so on and so forth. And so we went from there and went through the assessor and energy and Miss Gwen in the finance office. So she's going to try to give you a little background on it, and we've finally gotten things straight. So, Miss Gwen.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the Strategic Planning Committee. As Chairman Shakespeare said, he asked me that I come. We've been meeting regular here for over 3 years on these lighting districts, and also just to provide you with a brief synopsis regarding where we are with these road lighting districts. The parish has 8 road lighting districts, of which 7 are funded by the electorate of each respective district. The maximum millage is 5 mills, and the term of each election cycle is 10 years, and that's established by state law. The governing authority of each lighting district is the Ascension Parish Council. Several years ago, as Mr. Shea Snyder said, the parish requested Entergy to provide a digitized map to identify the location of each light that Entergy is charging each respective lighting district. And prior to our ISGIS department, our mapping in the parish left a lot to be desired as technology advances, and we created our ISGIS department. We have very excellent maps, and we contract with the assessor and cooperate with the assessor. And in fact, we have a parish computer located at the assessor's office so that she can receive these digitized maps from our IS department. This has helped her greatly. Since that has become on a line, she has started looking at all of the road lighting districts in conjunction with Entergy, trying to identify what lights are being charged to each respective district. Because of the inconsistencies that were involved with the more advanced technology with these mapping systems, the assessor's been able to review each of these lighting districts and to identify the discrepancies in each. The examples would be such as lights in the areas that were charged to the wrong lighting district. Some of them are very close together, especially on the west side of the river, and so it might be just a road separating them, or a bayou, or some identifiable boundary like that. So some were being charged to the wrong lighting districts. Some of the taxpayers were invoiced for lights when in fact they were not even in a lighting district, and then and also the vice versa, they may have been outside of a lighting district but they were still receiving a service. So once Entergy completed their maps and the parish received all of the maps, the assessor began to check the property tax rolls, and thereafter she made the necessary adjustments on the tax rolls. And this phase was completed in about mid-2006. And then after that, like I said, when the parish itself, when we received all the maps of all the lighting districts, identifying all the lights, and the assessor had completed her review, we began meeting with Entergy and the parish personnel and council members, and these are the council members whose district includes some or all of these road lighting districts. And as you recall, the council, I think in 2001, delegated authority, because the council is the governing authority of each respective lighting district. They delegated that authority to the individual council members whose district comprised the lighting districts. So we met, and at first just to review and discuss all the issues, and then to reach a mutual agreement amongst us all as to exactly what lights the parish was responsible. And we completed this phase in about May 2007. And then the last phase included discussions regarding the possibility of consolidating or even expanding boundaries. We looked at expanding the boundaries of some of the lighting districts to correct some of these issues that evolved over time, such as property owners, taxpayers that thought they were in one lighting district, and when we finished this process, as it turned out, they were not in any. So we took them off the tax rolls and turned out any lights that may have been in the area outside of a lighting district. So the discussion evolves now around, can we expand these boundaries to meet this demand of the taxpayers that want to be in lighting districts, and also the possibility of consolidating some lighting districts. That issue also came up, and we feel that there's a possibility, if we could consolidate some lighting districts, that actually we could lower the taxes in a respective consolidated district. So that is where we are today, and we're working with our legal counsel and our bond counsel to review this issue, see if it's a possibility, what it would take, and as a ending comment, in the past the council has expanded lighting districts in 2 instances. So we're waiting on their final recommendations. If there's any questions.
Yeah, Mr. Miller.
I suppose, thank you. I suppose I have a couple of questions. And thanks. That's a lot of work, Gwen. I know that, and I appreciate everything y'all have done for that, because I know in the past when lighting districts have been created, they pretty much have gone along district lines of the old council districts, but I know since I've been on the council, we have redistricted once, and I'm sure it's been done before. So it's really difficult to have one council member in charge of a lighting district, because it may include a part of his district and it may be 2 other council members now. Is there an existing map that we can look at? Because we're talking about our GIS department. Is there a map? Cause you want to expand these districts and everything that we can see. Not every part of the parish is in a lighting district, I know, but have they been able to come up with a clear-cut map?
Oh, yes, they have. And as Entergy gave us the location of the lights, our IS department actually, they gave them to them in the form that they could overlay them and put them in onto a map.
Because you made my reason for asking that is you made a comment that when you found that some people were not in lighting distance, you took them off of that tax roll. But did you also say that you turned off some lights?
The assessor took them off the tax rolls.
They took, but I mean, are there some lights out there in the parish that are no longer burning because they were not actually in the physical lighting district?
Maybe Ken can answer me better, but I'm sure they had the option of picking up the
I haven't. I doubt if it happened yet because I hadn't received any phone calls.
I'm sure you will.
But
I'm sure you will, because I would hate to shut some lights off. I'd be very interested in knowing the legalities of being able to combine some of these, because every year when we look at the finance reports, there are some lighting districts that are operating almost at a break even. There are some lighting districts that have a very healthy surplus in them, and if we could get all of that put together. But I know the lighting district is created by ordinance,
right,
and then the tax to put on there is created by a vote of the public.
Vote of the public.
So,
right.
Yeah, that's a heck of an exercise in legalities, I guess. But I can tell you, I'll tell you here, I will support consolidating and simplifying the lighting district so that we can keep the lighting to the people, but to reduce the cost and put it at as minimal as possible, and also so that we could come up with some sort of governance for those lighting districts, so that it's not one council member or another one's responsibility, because the majority of this council that's sitting here today was not in office in 2001 to make that decision. So I will support all of those whenever you come back to us with all of those answers that you're still looking for.
And you're right, it would be an economy of scales. Like I said, most of them are contiguous of each other, separated by a street, center line of a street or something. But and this would be where they're all located. There are 5 on the west side of the river, and there's only 2 on the east side.
Is that thing working? Can you put it on there?
There we go.
Okay. The river, kind of like right here. So 5 of our road lighting districts are on the west side of the river, and that's the ones we're looking at consolidation, because some are so small. You can see this little area is one, and this little area is one.
Is that white area on the bottom on the west side? Does that mean it's not in a district?
Actually, there's a lighter gray line that you can't see too good on this small of a map that was annexed, later into the area, but basically all this bottom line right here is not in a lighting district. And a part of the city you can see right, up in there.
Okay. Where on that map is, even though there are no lights there, where is lighting district number 8? Is that council district number 5 up there?
Right. That's the latest one that was created, and
it's a district. It just has no tax to fund it.
Right.
Okay.
Lighting district 8. There's, actually 3 lighting districts on the east side of the parish. Only 2 are funded.
And Mr. McConnell, to kind of briefly go over what kind of stimulated this, we had a number of residences in some subdivisions in Donaldsonville that were being charged for lights and wasn't in the lighting district.
I remember, and they weren't receiving the benefit.
And we were trying to stop that.
I remember that.
And also we were trying to get lights to the John Folse place and all of that area, and we couldn't find a reason why all of that area was not included. Nobody really noticed, except that it just wasn't populated when these lights were made. And then they had a request, particularly in District Number 2, for example, in parts of Sorrento, it's in the lighting district, and then as you go on the same road, they're not in the lighting district, and then they're in the lighting district again. And it's very hard to explain to people why you're not getting these services, but it was, as Ms. Gwynn said, it was done because of existing council districts, and that has changed over time. Right. And so when we were trying to straighten all of this out, then we found out the problems with the assessor had all of these things really wasn't never organized, and Energy got involved, and assessor got involved, and so finally, thank you a great deal, Ms. Gwynn, a lot of work. This May, I think we finally finalized everything, and now we go into the legal aspect to find out. You answer your questions. What can we do? What procedures we can do? Because apparently, up until now, there were no set procedures as to how to go about and do this forward. So,
well, and in the future, we may want to, instead of looking at council district lines, which are subject to change, we may want to look at lines like we do when we're drawing precincts, or if we use the census data lines, because those are pretty permanent.
Yeah.
They're not subject to change every 10 years. And I know whenever we're drawing precinct lines and so forth, we try our best to put it along natural boundaries like waterways and maybe interstate highways or something like that. That it's not such a capricious line.
Ms. Fontenot.
Well, I don't really understand lighting districts because I don't have one, you know.
Want one?
Well,
I was going to say that, you know, really all of Ascension needs to be a lighting district, and then that would solve a lot of problems too, because one of my concerns is that I know that there are several lighting districts that have a stockpile of money, and it's like, if they need more lights, one that has a lot, but then the rest of them still have a lot too. So the thing I'm thinking about is, you know, why, if we have money, aren't we putting more lights out if they're needed? And if they don't need any more lights, then certainly the people should be able to get their money back, you know. But no, I believe that for safety reasons and stuff nowadays and stuff like that, if you could, you know, I would rather see the whole parish become, you know, a lighting district. I don't know if that's possible, where you wouldn't even have them divided, where it would be one parish and a pot of money, and then you wouldn't have to worry about, if you had excess, you could, you know, spread it out more evenly. So anyway, that's just a thought.
One of the things for information also, because there's been some discussion, and we get calls all the time, and I'm sure Gwen does too, on the interstate exchanges, just to clarify for everyone, on Highway 22 in Sorrento, that is under the jurisdiction of the town of Sorrento. They got the lights on a grant, and they're on a maintenance contract. On Highway 30 and 44, the parish has been maintaining those, although we are, and the state has awarded a $750,000 grant to upgrade them. And at that point in time, I think we're in negotiations with the city, and we may turn that over to the city for maintenance. That remains to be seen. Our biggest problem right now is I-10 and 73, because they're going to be redoing the interchange, and right now there's no funding to putting lights into that interchange. And I think we really need to sit down and take a look at how we can do that. And I'm all for making sure we get it done, but I don't think it's fair to take people that are already being taxed for lights in the area to put lights in an area that is not being taxed.
That's why we
and so, but then we also need to find out the feasibility, because quite frankly, the reason why that area has been a taxing district is because they are supplemented by the plants, which are a little bit higher ad valorem percentage. And we would just need to see some kind of way, maybe getting with the assessor, whether we have enough commercial activity now to where we can fund it in the rest of the more rural areas of the parish. And so it's just a question of funding, and we're beginning to ask those questions, Ms. Fontenot.
I think we need to go forward with that, because you and I both know that intersection improvements with lights at intersections on the interstate and airline highway and places like that are very crucial to the safety of the people, especially now since we're really growing and we have lots more traffic getting off in these areas, and then also a lot more crime, and that's crime preventer to a certain extent, lights.
What I'd like to do now is to have finance department, and also we have it in legal right now to find a format. And when we get some information back, we can come back and sit together and maybe have a group that we'll look forward to a process to see what our options are, and we will go from there.
Including parish-wide?
Ma'am?
Including looking at it parish-wide?
Yes. I mean, we just have to see what it's going to cost, and whether people want to do that.
It's kind of a supply and demand thing. You know,
Yes,
if you
ma'am.
don't have the supply of revenue to meet the demand, you don't want to box yourself in, you know, like that. But as we all know, commercial property has picked up a great deal in the last few years, so we'll look at it. you mentioned the industrial area. Don't forget we have industrial area designations that protect them from special district taxes. There is an industry in District 6, well, Road Lighting District 6, that the lighting district predated the industry, so therefore they had to pay. But and they know that. I mean, you know, same thing with Lighting District 2 on the west side of the river.
So,
but the rest are exempt from special district taxes because of the industrial area designations. But we can look at, like I said, there's a lot more commercial, you know, property now in the rural areas of the parish than, you know, ever before, as we all know. So it's a possibility.
Ms. Gwen, when we get some more information, can you bring it to us, please?
Sure will.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Update on Parish master plan. I had an opportunity last month to meet with some representatives of the Chamber of Commerce. They asked to meet, and they have sent out a letter requesting an update on the master plan and zoning map, which as we all know, the master plan actually came out about 10 years ago. And anybody that's been in the parish the last 10 years know that we've outgrown our current master plan, and it needs to be updated. And so we're at that point now, and quite simply the request is to update this using a group of people. And so, Mr. Sigler, I think you've been working on this.
Yes, Chairman, we have. The Planning and Zoning Department, and particularly the Commission, have been talking about this for probably about 4 months. In the new budget year request, you will find a request from between $250,000 and $300,000 to retain the services of a master planning group. And what we have talked about thus far is splitting the parish into sections by years and addressing certain sections at certain times. We are particularly concerned, I think the whole Commission, about the section west and south of I-10, because that's where we know that lots of development will take place in a rather accelerated manner, and we need to pay careful attention to that area. Probably the following year handle basically to the east and north of 10, and then the final year put everything together and finish up what is not developed already in the area between Gonzales and Prairieville. We've actually met with different members of the staff, and the Commission have met with 3 different groups thus far. I think there's probably 2 or 3 more we'd want to talk to, and then go through a formal process where we almost request for proposals, make a decision on who to retain. And of course, at that point, I'm sure you would be involved as the council.
Do you have identify the West Bank as what part of developmental phase?
That will probably come as a portion of this first phase, particularly the airport deal falling off this year does not make it as important as it would have been before, but they will probably handle the West Bank in this first phase, because that's all falls in the same category where we've got a lot of property that is available for development right now. And obviously, as you know, from the PUDs, SPUDs, and T&Ds that we're dealing with now, that's more and more development will be south of I-10 and across the river, we tend to believe. It has a lot to do with a lot of things, drainage, traffic, everything else.
Okay.
In addition, I think in that letter they also talked about a new zoning map, and I was kind of surprised to find that a new zoning map had not been officially approved in several years. And so 3 months ago we began working on a new zoning map, and I had thought that I would roll it out complete tonight. I don't know how you turn this thing on.
It's on.
It is? Okay. And when we printed this afternoon, we found 2 final discrepancies, both of them having to deal with our newest SPUDs, where it's not picking up all the data sets to lay in things the way they should be here. But at the next P&Z meeting, they will do the first step of approving a new official zoning map to go on the internet. And I believe by ordinance, P&Z chairman has to sign it, and then the council chairman has to sign it. So it'll come to you probably at your next council meeting.
Would you get us an updated zoning map for all of the council
Sure.
people?
Everyone will get a copy of it, and it will also be, as soon as it's signed by both parties, it will be available on the internet.
Okay.
And we talked today, and we'll have a policy that's being written up now that just says automatically in August of each year we will renew the zoning map because that really needs to be done annually.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That's fine, though.
Ron, I guess it was in the end of 2004, the beginning of 2005, I began talking to several people, John Scanlon one and others, about the fact that we don't have any service roads in Ascension Parish, and about the fact that we're driving down the interstate and constantly seeing wooden fences where we should see service roads and businesses. And that's 3 years now, and we're getting more fences. We need to, at some point in time, quickly, if we're going to rezone anything,
Do you want me to give you a
get
little
what we have already.
Okay, let me give you a little history on that and tell you how that started. When the interstate highway system was envisioned in the 50s, states had a choice on construction to make when they got ready to build them. And that was the federal government would match 90-10 if the states just put the interstate off of the federal highway gas tax. Or they could go 80-20. Most of the states in the South went 90-10, like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. I don't think Florida did. But so as you go up and down Interstate 10 across Louisiana, you won't see a lot of access roads. And the ones you do see were constructed much after that. And in many cases, they were actually roads that were there before I-10. I-10 came through, and these roads just continue to have been maintained. So not just Ascension Parish, but most of Louisiana doesn't have any access roads along the interstate. You're exactly right. The first thing I pointed out when I got here to the president and also to the commission was we have all this wonderful property we're not doing anything with because we don't have access roads. And I think that's certainly something we can remedy. However, under the current guidelines, the way I understand them, the parish is going to be responsible for acquiring the right-of-way for those access roads. And that's something we certainly need to get on very quickly. It's too late, you know, as you get closer to Baton Rouge, probably financially.
I guess what I'm saying is that shouldn't, you know, if we're going to do anything, we would need to rezone that to keep residents from being built along there. I'm thinking of Highway 44 also from the interstate, you know, toward the river there. What's happening is it's going to develop into houses along 44. Then you've got school buses stopping to pick up kids. Then you've got traffic blocked up, you know, where you really would need to go in. So Pelican Point did a good thing in that they put their subdivision and then they left the land up front to put businesses, which makes sense because then the people can come out without having to get on the road. The school buses go in to get the kids, and there's nobody being picked up there. But my concern is that with all the land up for sale, under the current way it's zoned and everything, once it gets developed, then it's too late, you know. And I don't know what we as a council need to do, but I think these are some areas that we could kind of protect right now to help us with the growth before it gets to that end over there. Because if the front of 44 develops any more than it is, then that's every time that there's a house, there's a school bus going to stop. And that stops your traffic and everything, right, too. So.
And Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the obstacles to it right now is, I think by law, if we rezone it to essentially take it out of commerce,
it's considered a taking.
We have to purchase it.
Right.
The right-of-way.
Now, there are some very short-term solutions out there that we understand. I can't say I don't really understand how this works, but I am told that you can, as a governing body, limit development in a particular area for a particular period of time, and I don't think it's very long, like 2 or 3 years, because you don't want it to develop because you can say we don't have the utility system to support it at this point. So you could draw some areas off and say that you don't want anything else going there for a short period of time. But that's something you'll have to think long and hard about.
I guess where I'm going with this is, there's relatively few places that we can plan, that we can have a say in what happens there. And it's obvious that we haven't planned well in the past. I mean, Airline Highway is a nightmare. That would be one of those kind of things that would need a service road, but it's not going to happen because it's already done. I guess what I'm saying is I'd like to see us try to at least plan, for businesses and things where businesses make sense and houses don't, in the areas that we haven't planned yet, because there's just the southern part that we really have left that we can even really do that.
And we were beginning to work towards that with the previous planning and zoning director, and then he's been out for a long period of time, and Mr. Sigler has just come on now, and that was one of the things that we had talked about, and he was trying to find the legalities of going through, and basically what you have to do is establish a master plan that you adopt that encompasses that, and then to go through the legal aspect of approving to purchase within a certain period of time the right-of-way to get that. So this was the first step to going towards that. So.
Let me also
let me ask this. What was all that Karen Fernandez stuff that we did a few years ago? Wasn't that for all of this? I mean, we paid a couple of $100,000. We got several meetings in every council district. We got a wealth of information. As far as I know, we've not done squat with it. And so why am I going to pay another $200,000 to $300,000 for another study when we don't do anything with the $200,000 to $300,000 study that we did 2 years ago?
I'm in agreement with you, Martin.
Well, let me say this: we're digging through the old information as quick as we can, and we're going through.
You're talking old. I'm talking 2 years old. That's not old.
Well, we're taking all these old engineering studies, everything that we can find, as quick as I can digest them and send them back and get them scanned. We're trying to create a database of that information, so I'm trying real hard not to repeat anything that we've done before. Now, some of the information from before the storm, quite frankly, is not real good anymore. A lot of the assumptions that it was based on are just don't work now. One thing I wanted to point out when you're talking about highways and access roads, Bob and I are both on the Baton Rouge Loop Authority, and that process is moving forward very quickly. And the game plan is within a year to have the actual new route set up. And so that may be the first place we actually have to draw a line and say we're going to have to limit development along this deal and hold it up while they're actually out condemning property, or however they're going to obtain that property. I don't know where it's going to come through the parish at this point. I don't think anyone does. But that's within 1 year. The game plan is to have that ready to go and start funding, because they're talking about construction in a very accelerated basis.
And Ron, would you, for the next meeting, would you please bring up an up-to-date on the information that we had from the last study? And it did happen 2 years ago, and unfortunately, as we began to get into it, the hurricane hit. It put us back about 8 months, and then since that time, we've had a turnover in who was going to be managing it through the planning department. And then since you've come on, I know
we've actually tried to find her. Because my understanding was it wasn't quite finished.
No, there were 13 points, and they were going through them. And as part of it, impact fees were part of it, PUDs were part of it,
right.
Landscape buffers, possible rezoning. There was a number of things that went into it that combined was going to do some things, and it was also supposed to lead to redoing the master plan, which was a separate issue. So. That all started out as how we were going to go about trying to manage growth. Also, the drainage plan, which we're going to hopefully put forward through tonight. One more aspect.
And since we're dredging up stuff, about 5 years ago, I guess, the chambers of commerce, the two chambers, put together I don't want to say a bipartisan, multi-partisan committee to look at the Ascension Parish Charter. They hired the public affairs Affairs Research Council to coordinate everything. They came back with what I thought were some excellent recommendations. They came and they made a presentation to the old Strategic Planning Committee. It kind of wallowed and nothing happened. Then when this new council took office, they came and they made, at my request, they came and they made the presentation again, and added to that was the possibility of even reducing the number of council members on here, and
we will put that on the agenda.
It's still gotten nowhere. So since we're digging up old stuff, open that next file drawer and get that that new study out too. So we can look at the master plan and we can look at the charter as well, all at the same time.
Okay.
Ms. Fontenot, you had any comments?
Yeah, I did have some comments about this this letter from the chamber. I'm in agreement with Mr. McConnell. We need to find out what we've already spent money on, and a lot of us, feel really serious about putting money for studies and not getting results, and putting money out there for plans and not getting results. I'm looking over this list of who they want to put on a commission, and I find that the people are missing from this list. And so I have a concern about that. I mean, we've got industry, business, developers, retail. It says all are represented, the sheriff's office, the chambers, the planning and zoning, administration and council, but there are no people. And we do have some citizen groups out there. And so that's something that I would like to make sure is addressed. And I do see down here where it says that our current master plan is to preserve, the idea was to preserve our rural nature. Well, we know that we didn't follow the plan, because we definitely do not have a rural nature anymore. And it says on here that we should not be held by that standard any longer, or that's what I'm gathering out of here. But I would say this, that we have gone away from our rural character, to the point of no return. But I do feel that we have to value the parts that are still rural, because there are many people that still want to raise horses, still want to raise cows, still want to be in the agricultural section, and we mustn't forget those people. And so I just want to make sure that that's on the table also.
Okay. Ron, give us some information as you go forward with it, and we can
we will do so.
We can go from there, make some decisions. Okay. Number 7, drainage ordinance. Mr. Ron?
You have in front of you a copy of the drainage ordinance and what we hope is its final draft. This one was done by Jeff Diaz. If you'll remember where we left off before, we basically had 2 revised copies of the drainage ordinance going around. This one combines the 2 of them. It has been, I think that several members of the commission have reviewed this. It's been through my group, Bob Turner's group, and the drainage group. It doesn't have absolutely everything in a perfect world all of us would want, but it's a real good first start. And you have probably read this already on your own, but let me show you some highlights, if I could call attention to some changes from the last time we talked about this item in front of strategic planning. If you move to number 4, applicability, items A, B, C, D are basically identical to what they were before. The new items would be E, F, G, and H. They're not exactly new, but the wording on them has changed somewhat by legal. Basically, this talks about what this ordinance applies to and does not. It does not apply to granting servitudes of legal passage or legal servitudes to other landowners, or conveyances of right-of-ways or servitudes to a public entity. It does not apply to family partitions as defined by our code of regulations, as long as they are splitting into 2 or less lots. Partitions of 3 or more lots must be approved by either the East or West Ascension Drainage District. That's because of some issues that have happened in the past. G, lots created by simple subdivisions of property as defined under our subdivision regulations. Simple divisions of 3 or more lots must be approved by either the East or West Ascension Drainage District. And finally, the placement of spoiled material on lands where such spoil is dug for public works projects by federal, state, or local entities. And that primarily is in favor of the drainage districts when they're doing projects that leave fill in an area for a short period of time. Sometimes in drainage construction projects, there's just no way to remove the fill while you're actually digging. Sometimes you have to come back and get it 6 months to a year later. And so there are some short-term inconveniences with that, but I know from experience it's impossible to take all of it with you while some projects are going on at that time. I didn't see any differences in Part 5 compliance with federal and state regulations. I didn't see any new changes under grade requirements for structures and roadways. I didn't see any changes from the last thing you saw under protection of existing watersheds and conveyance systems. There's some changes in wording under placement of fill below the base flood elevation that you'll be interested in, particularly towards the end. E, excess storage credits may be created by a development and utilized by another development if it meets the criteria of Section D above. If excess credits are created by a development, the ERA shall issue a letter of credit that may be utilized by another project in the same watershed within 5 years of the issuance of the letter. That was a topic of some discussion between all parties. The engineers tell us that that needs to be included. F, waivers to Section 6 of the ordinance due to a property owner's inability to generate fill credits may be made on a case-by-case basis by the Director of the Department of Public Works and or the appropriate Gravity Drainage Commission designees. The Department of Public Works and or Drainage Commission designees shall report to the appropriate Drainage Commission on a quarterly basis a list of all waivers issued under Section 6 of this ordinance. And G, this section shall not apply to the construction of a single-family home by the landowner if the home will be the landowner's primary residence. So that basically lets single landowners out if they're not within a subdivision. Stormwater detention requirements didn't change at all. Erosion of bank stability did not change. The only thing I will say under that is that the drainage district, East Ascension Drainage District, Bill Rue had really wanted to eliminate any backyard open ditches, and there was quite a bit of discussion about that, and the majority felt like at this point that might be something we want to adopt at a later date. There's a lot of advantages to that. There are also some disadvantages that I don't know we're ready to tackle at this point. Construction standards didn't change. Servitude and right-of-way requirements have not changed since what you've seen before. Stormwater conveyances systems have not changed. Let me look at that just a minute one more time. No, that did not change. I don't see any changes under design criteria. There are some changes in drainage servitudes. Drainage servitudes are dedicated to the appropriate drainage district for the exclusive purpose of maintaining adequate stormwater drainage. Any encroachment within such servitude that may inhibit this purpose presently or in the future is determined by the Department of Public Works and or EA Drainage Works is prohibited. Removal of such encroachments shall be the responsible of the landowner and shall be accomplished no more than 10 days from the date of notice by the Department or Drainage Works. The landowner shall be assessed a penalty of $100 a day thereafter until the encroachment is removed and verified by the Department of Public Works and Drainage Works. when imminent flooding or damage from storm events are present as determined by the Department of Public Works or Drainage Works, the appropriate public designee shall have the right to enter the property and remove the encroachment. The property owner will be assessed all costs incurred in the removal of the encroachment. And finally, I don't know that you saw this wording on variances before. Any request for deviation from the policies and from the requirements and policies outlined within the Ascension Parish Drainage Ordinance must be in writing by a registered professional engineer licensed by the state of Louisiana. Written requests shall include drawings and calculations necessary to prove basis for warranting a variance. The request for a variance must be specific and addressed to the attention of the Director of Planning. A variance will be granted only upon the written approval of the appropriate Drainage District Engineering Review Agent and its District Director, the Director of Public Works, and the Engineering Review Agent of the Ascension Parish Planning Commission. We felt like we needed to put that in there because there will be situations that require something that does not fall necessarily within the guidelines of our policy. But to do so, they're going to really have to have a case ready.
Okay. And I wanted to let everybody know Mr. Jeff Diaz was the attorney that worked with us to finish this up. I'd like to thank him, and mostly Councilman Lambert had worked very hard on this also, so we had a great deal of input from them too. But he couldn't make it tonight, but he had asked that I read this letter. He said he's very sorry he can't make it to the meeting tonight. However, please advise the committee members that I have drafted the ordinance as we have discussed and that I approve of it. As far as the action to take tonight, I recommend that the committee consider this as new action, as not as a continuation of prior actions, because this ordinance has changed so much since I read it to the council last September. So basically he said that he will come to the full council meeting to explain anything that they have. Ms. Hotnote.
I do want to thank Jeff because I know he put a lot of time and energy into this. And we've had so many different ordinances that we've had to compare, and then we'd get them back, and it was a different one or whatever. And so one of my requests to him was, is this the final copy, and is this the one you approved? So I see that he's got it all marked up, because I do trust Jeff, to do what we've intended to do and to make the right changes. Therefore, I'm not going to go back and start comparing this to the old ones. And I just want to make sure, Ron, nothing's been changed on the draft that he sent.
In fact, this went directly to, although he and I talked a lot, this went directly to Cinnamon, and she printed it.
Then I make a motion that we accept this draft, this and send it to the full council for ratification.
We have a motion by Ms. Fontenot. Do we have a second? We have no second. Mr. McConnell.
May I tell you why I didn't second it? Because this has gone before the council 3-4 times, and every time one person stands up and there's one or two things that person doesn't like about it, and it's got to come back to this committee because the council votes it back down and sends it back. And I'm not going to play that exercise in futility one more time. Send this out, please. Let everybody look at it and say this is what's coming forth. And then if they want to do anything else to it, then we can vote on it next go around, because we've been playing with this since September. One more month won't hurt.
Hasn't it been sent already?
And let me make this statement. I do appreciate what Mr. McConnell is very frustrating. I do appreciate Mr. McConnell. It is not, this draft right here is not what any one councilman wishes to have. It
right.
was. It's not as strong as some councilmen want, not as weak as other councilmen. But what we did was we went through and we took out anything that was a stopping point of anybody that was concerned. And so that's Mr. Diaz and Councilman
with
Lambert
the exception
made
of
sure.
the ditches in the back, which
Right.
I agree with Mr. Rue we need.
Yeah.
But
But that
right now we need to get something going, and we can come back and get somebody to task.
But the reason we didn't put that in there, we couldn't get a consensus of the council.
And we can work on it later.
And there was a number of things. We couldn't get a map to determine the difference in flow stream and pool stream to try to keep people from building up too much in that area. So we left that out, waiting for more technology to adjust that. So there's a number of things that, as we go in the next couple of years, we can add them as deemed necessary. But this was a basic thing, and that was the reason.
That was my position all along, was that we could have added and changed it. I wanted to adopt this last September, and then if we found any difficulties with it, we could have made those changes, and we'd make the changes, and then we'd propose it again, and somebody had a problem with this, and so we'd come back and we'd make the changes again, and my God, we kept changing this thing for one person or two people, and it just got silly.
And that's why it took until this amount of time, and it took until we got to this point of compromise. And so I quietly feel confident that that we can go forward with it now as it is, because we did do it properly. And in all fairness, at every instance that has gone from here to the council, they had some mistakes and grammatical errors that went forward to the council that made people skeptical about it on every instance, and it was very, very frustrating because of that. And I want to thank Mr. Sigler for making sure that this didn't happen at this point in time. But since last September, it was quite a different situation, and as it came from one computer to the next, it did not come to us exactly as we passed it. So that was the fears of most people.
The main person the main reason why it didn't go any further, because of the Jeff Diaz himself had so many problems with the language. That was what held us up on a lot of it. And because he would come back and say, this is not good, it's the way it was written. So that's when we tasked him to go and do it so that he could make it legal, like he believed would protect us. And so that's where we are, and why we're going back with the one, and why he asked that we would treat it as a new item, because this one's got terminology. See, we had all done it, and legal had problem with the terminology. But then when he was given the task to oversee this, it was his problems that became most everybody else's problems, and he's addressed it. And that's why I say I trust him, since he went back and took the time to make sure that everything was just like it was supposed to be. And that's why I want to commend him, because I know it was a big effort on his part.
Oh, I know. I trust Jeff implicitly on all of that. Jeff and I have worked closely on many issues over many years. I would just be a lot more comfortable if we sent this out to everybody and at least give them the opportunity to read it, and then I'll be fully prepared. I'll make the motion next week.
I will see to it that everyone gets a copy this week.
And give the opportunity to debate.
Did we approve that one?
Yeah.
No?
What we will do, Mr. Sigler, is get this out immediately to all council members, and we have, I think, 3 weeks until the next meeting.
And I'll poll.
And if we have no concerns at the next council meeting, I would make a request that we put it on the council agenda for the second meeting of next month. If we have no input by any councilman after that point in time, with no recommendation from.
So you want me to change the motion? Morton, would you like to word that motion?
I'll tell you what. I'll just go ahead and second your motion if it's still on the table.
And we'll add.
We will put it. We will put it for the second.
If somebody
meeting
stands out there at that mic and nitpicks this thing one more time, I'm going to take that gavel. Now this is on live TV. I'm going to take that gavel and I'm going to chuck it right at their head, and I can throw very accurately. I'm telling you.
Did you want to add what he said though?
No, I'm just going to second that motion, and you can go ahead and put it on the first agenda.
We have a motion to forward this to the council, and a second.
Yes.
Any objections? And I will put this out, and it will go on the second meeting in August, and that way
We have plenty of time.
we will have time for any questions by any councilman by the first meeting. No.
Well, don't you just
First
have
meeting's
to
gonna be pretty
introduce?
full.
Excuse me, wait, excuse me. No, we can give it out. I want to get in. I want to have time to get any input by any council member, and we will put it on the second meeting of the month at a regular ordinance. I think it will be introduced at that time, and then it will be passed at the next one.
Right.
But we will not be offering any changes whatsoever. We will just get input and questions whether we need to delay it. That way, if there is some significant concerns by council people, we can come back at the next strategic planning meeting and address those. We will not go to a full council with questions with it.
Yeah.
I agree with Mr. McConnell.
Whenever you know, when you put forth an ordinance and you introduce the ordinance and you publish the ordinance and then when it comes time for public debate and so forth, you can make amendments to it at that time, at the time that you're adopting it, and it's just not necessary to keep coming back to strategic planning committee. So I would think that if it comes in the first meeting of August and it comes as a recommendation from strategic planning, and then let the council adopt it or not, and then you're right, then the second meeting in August we would introduce it as an ordinance, and it would be an ordinance form, and then the first meeting of September, which would be the 1-year anniversary of its first introduction. We can put little cupcakes here with little candle burn them on them, and then maybe by then we can finally pass this thing that we've been working on for so long for the term of this council.
Does everybody agree that's a good format to
That's a
move
good
forward?
format.
And then I move to adjourn.
Thank you,
to
Mr.
adjourn.
McConnell. Second.